Hi, this is Bob Martin. This video is for users of Jenoptik Gryphax digital microscope cameras and Gryphax software. I'm going to go over some of the new features and improvements in the latest version of Gryphax software 2.3.0. I'm using the setup that you see on the screen here, consisting of a Leica stereo microscope, a Gryphax camera, laptop computer with Gryphax software running. And so let's take a look at the software. Welcome to Gryphax software 2.3.0. In a couple of other videos that I have made, I talk about unboxing the camera and installing the software and calibrating and getting set up. So you can take a look at those videos. But in this video, as mentioned, I'm going to go over what's new and improved in version 2.3.0. Starting with File, Preferences, General tab. There are a couple of new things in the General tab. The first one is selects visibility. Okay, I think this was already here, whether the labels were visible or not on your image. But label background, this is new. You can have a label background of transparent, which is what the default was in the previous version of the software. You can choose white or you can choose black now. So this just makes the labeling of measurements and things like that more visible, easier to read. So that's a nice feature. Also, I have a grid cell size that you can set now. You can choose anything you want, 100 micron grid. I think I'm using 1000 micron grid on the stereo microscope because I'm not magnifying that much. And this grid size then will be maintained as long as the system is calibrated correctly. The grids will be of a set size, and that will help also with the new counting grid feature that I'll talk about later on. You can also choose to add the grid overlay to the image or not. So I'm going to choose to add it, so what you see is what you get. If there's a grid overlay on your live image, then when you capture that image, you'll see the grid overlaid on the captured image as well. But here's where you would turn that on or off. So that is everything in File Preferences General. I think the next feature is all the way down here in File Preferences Status Bar. There's one thing that's been added to the status bar in the latest version, which is Keep Scale Bar Visible. If you'll notice down here, I have a scale bar in my image, but in the past version of the software, you would click Capture Image, and it would capture the image, and then it would return you to a live image. But the scale bar overlay would be erased on the new live image, and you'd have to put it back every time. So now this is a big improvement. It keeps the scale bar exactly where you put it from one image to the next. So that's a big help. And let's see, that's all for File Preferences at this time. So I'm just going to click OK. The next thing I'd like to go over is the View menu up here. View has 4 options: presentation mode, grid, cross, and split view image. Presentation mode is a holdover from the previous software, where if you choose that, you'll get a full screen live image of your subject without all the menus and things around it. So this is for, obviously, if you're projecting for a classroom or a conference room kind of a situation. Hit escape to get out of that. It doesn't show it here, but F11 and escape work, but also just clicking the F for full screen mode will turn that on and off as well. You've got G for grid. This is the same as it was before. You turn the grid on and off here by clicking this or by just clicking the letter G on the keyboard. So I've turned my grid on. It's a little bit hard to see here because it's a pretty fine red grid over a red Swiss Army knife. But that's what that does. So let me hit G and turn it back off. There's a new cross line, or C, which is helpful, especially I've found if I'm doing some sort of measuring with like a measuring stage and I want just a basic cross line, or if I'm using polarized light microscopy and I want to center my stage rotation. So here I can have a center cross line added to my image very easily. And the last one is V. All these are letters are together. You've got F, G, C, and V right there on the keyboard that cover these 4 things. Split view image. There was a split view image capability in 2.2, but it's much improved in 2.3. So here's my live image over here. This is still live. I can also, let me grab any image over here and drag it in that I want to compare. So now I have two images, and I can, using the scroll wheel on my mouse, zoom in and out of these images. This is a new feature. The scroll wheel zoom feature is something that probably should have been in from the beginning, but has now been added to version 2.3. And there's also this link button up here, so I can click that, and this will link the two images. So if I move one around, the other one moves the same way. This is great if you're trying to capture or trying to view like a known with an unknown or something like that, or comparing features. If I have two images that are both captured images, in other words, right now I have a captured image and a live image, but if I replace my live image with another captured image, it doesn't really matter which image I pick as long as they were both taken with the same camera. Let me just grab this one and see if it matches. So now I can link these two together. I can scroll up and down, and if I wanted to capture an image of both images as a separate image, I can now do that if I go to File, Save As, and then it'll give me the option to create an image, and I can choose my file format and various things like that. Let's just save that. And so this now, here, let me get out of that mode, and so here's the image. You can see it right here if I open this thumbnail. So now I've captured this nice comparison image. This can be super helpful. I've used this kind of feature many times before, and to show, this is what a good objective looks like, and this is what a bad one looks like, various things like that. So there's all kinds of potential uses for that feature, so I'm very happy to see that. All right, now back to live, and we'll talk about some new features over on the right side of the screen. The first one I think we will talk about is the crop tool. This is new. I can take a live image and I can adjust the size of this box, and then I can, if I capture that, click record, I'm just going to get, and I've got it set to ask me if I've got the calibration set correctly, and I believe I do, so yeah, we'll proceed. So I've just captured that portion of the live image over here. So the crop tool works that way. You can also go back and crop out parts of an image that you've already captured. Let's say this image, let's say I want to crop out a certain area of this. I can use my crop tool to say just get this area over here. I can make it, this is as small as I can make it. It has a limit, but let's say I just want that as a separate image, and when I click live again, a little unintuitive, but when I click live again, it'll go back live, but it'll also capture that that cropped area of this image down here. So, and I can always rename these images over here. This is not a new feature, but this is a handy feature. If I wanted to call this something, I can just rename it right here. Test 23, I don't know, I'm making something up. So it's easy to rename images over there as needed. So that's the crop tool. Measuring is the same as before, annotations is the same as before. Here we have the counting grid. So I think I might put something else under the microscope so you can see the grid a little better. Here, I'll put this business card back under here and focus on that. And maybe use my exposure adjustment to brighten that up a bit. And then let's get our cross line overlay back on there. Our grid, sorry, not cross line, our grid with a G. So there's my grid. This is a 1000 micron grid at 1.6x magnification, and that is where I am on my zoom. So now I can use this counting feature, which there was a counting feature present before, but now the counting feature allows me to check whether I want to use the grid. And if I do want to use the grid, then it will count features within, and I'm not actually counting things, I'm just going to click. But if I was counting particles or things like that, here I go. I'm counting everything in that grid, and then I'm going to go and count things in this grid, and it's going to have a different color. And then I'm going to count things in this grid, and is automatically keeping track of how many points have been counted within each grid. And if I go to my reporting feature and take a look at that, I can see that I have had 5 different counters. So I've counted things in 5 grids, and there were 3 things in the first one, and then 3, 3, 4, and 4. And it gives me % of total. So that is a new and I think potentially very useful feature for folks that are doing manual counting. Okay, so that's how that works. This is not new, but I will just go over this right quick. I have a bunch of stuff on my screen. I want to get rid of it. I'm going to turn the grid off to start with. And then if I want to delete all of this from my live image, because again, this is a live image, I can just drag a box over all of this, and I'll get one big trash can in the middle, which is a delete all. So that's pretty handy. All right, and then I think one of the last things I want to go over is the new and improved Z-stacking feature. So I'm going to take my pocket knife and put it back on here again. And I think I'm going to set it up on its edge like this. And what you will notice with lots of three-dimensional objects when you're trying to take pictures of them with a microscope, you will find, let me make this not quite so bright here, you will find that you can get some parts in focus, but not everything in focus at the same time. So here I've got this part in focus and this part, but this is blurry. And if I bring this into focus, well, then this is blurry. So this is what Z-stacking, or EDF for extended focal depth, EDF. That's what that does. And this is hugely improved in version 2.3. It works not only with vertical axis optical systems, but it will automatically correct for parallax correction with a stereo microscope, which is pretty cool. So let's say here I am above my image, and as I come down, this is the first things that come into focus. These are the first things. So I'm going to turn on my Z-stacking feature right here. If I hold that, it'll say Z-stacking EDF. I'm going to turn that on. And then I'm going to click record right here. This is my live image, and this is going to be the image that it's building. So I'm going to click record, and this tells me how many images that it has taken. So I'm going to slowly turn my focus, not too slowly, I'm just going to focus down through, and it's going to build an image. And you might look at that image that it's building and think that's not really very good, and you would be right about that, but that's because it hasn't taken into consideration that parallax correction. But now if I click stop, it will go ahead and correct for that. And then if I double click here to see what it captured, a very nice in-focused image. So again, that's a big improvement. That is nice that it can do that with the included software. In the past, we always recommended some third-party software to do that, but we don't have to do that anymore. Now it's just included with the camera when you buy it. So that is almost the last new feature that I want to talk about. The very last new feature that I want to talk about is this new PDF report and statistics. And I haven't honestly had a chance to play with this too much myself. But if I create a new report, I can have a live image window, which would be camera image view, I think. So there's my live image right there. Let's see if that's correct. Yeah, that's my live image right there. I can have an image view if I want to bring in maybe an image that isn't live, like this one. Let's drag that in there. I can drag in text documents. If I had measurements on these things, I could drag in a measurement table and a statistics table, and I could basically create a PDF report kind of on the go. Let's see, where did my, there it is. And then save that. So that is a very brief overview of that. That's a feature that I haven't had time to fully explore, but I think that might also end up being a helpful feature. So thanks for watching the video. Until next time.